Hi there. Welcome to my Others Keeper. You see on the card that it says that Jen will be joining me, and it seems like she might not. I don't know what happened, but for some reason we just couldn't connect today. So we will be having my friend Krystal join me, and we will probably just be having a nice little chat because that's what we do when we have to improvise. So come on, join in, ask any questions you like. I'm pretty much an open book. In fact, I'm an oversharer, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Um, so let me show you. Oops, ouch. Let me show you a little bit about what's keeping me busy lately. Well, part of who I am is that I'm an artist, and so I painted that, but I also do jewelry. So this is part of a painting. You flip it around, it's part of a different painting. And then each of these pendants are parts of, as I drop them, parts of different paintings. And this style flips around. So that's what keeps me busy. That's what makes me happy. Um, I do things like there we go, little chokers and such like that. And even though I'm old, I still wear them too. So I'm going to be setting up a place where I can sell those online. Shipping is really expensive for something as large as a painting, but when it comes to something small like a necklace, a pendant, a keychain, something like that, anything like that, then I can absolutely ship those much more economically. So that will be probably what I'm going to be selling online, not Etsy. Etsy tends to um, they tend not to pay their makers overly well. And there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order for you to get the money instead of them to get the money. So I'm going to find a different place to put it. If any of you are interested in taking a look or finding out where I might actually sell it, comment in the description or send me an email. Let me just give you my email. So you can send me an email. I'd be more than happy to tell you where to find me. Um, so what else is going on? This week, on the 16th, so on Thursday, I believe we're having Sharon from Surviving Together come on. We're going to talk about grooming. And I'm not talking about taking care of your hair. I'm talking about how people are manipulated into becoming what somebody else wants them to do or be. Sometimes it is simply manipulation for manipulation's sake. Sometimes it is for something nefarious. We're going to be talking about manipulating somebody probably and most likely for personal gratification. So that's going to be coming up. Pamela, we've met her before. She's going to come in for her part two, and we're going to talk about her time from college on. And she's had so many different experiences in her life. She's absolutely fascinating. She will also be joining us once a month, each month, to talk about um what do we have her in here for? It just says Pamela is coming in. Okay. So yes, we're going to have Pamela come in every month, and we're going to have her just chat, and we'll talk about anything from healthcare to mental health to trauma to whatever. And then on the 23rd and the 28th, I'm going to have Brian come in, and we're going to talk about him, his life again. These people that I've been able to meet have are been so absolutely fascinating. There's a lot of broken people out there. You know this. You might be one. I know I am. Um, so it's one of those things where you just, hang on and follow the ride. And that's kind of what Brian's had to do his whole life. He's moved a lot of times. He's seen a lot of dysfunction in his life, and he is coming through the other side. And we're going to discuss on the 23rd going through it, and on the 28th, we're going to discuss coming out on the other side. And finally, on the 30th, the final broadcast for this particular month, Ben is going to come on, Ben Bacon Bits, for those of you who know him. He's going to come on and we're going to talk about hope and what hope means in the case of mental health. My basic view is that depression doesn't kill you, lack of hope kills you. Hopelessness, the idea that there is nothing left, there is no possible way out, there's nobody who cares, all of that, that's what'll kill you. So we're going to talk to Ben and find out not only his theory on what hope is and how to get hope and what hope does, but also tools to help bring hope back into your life when you feel that you've lost hope. So those are some things that we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks. I'm really excited about being able to chat with people. My June schedule is fairly open. I'm going to be talking with my friend Gwen on the 4th. And there have been some developments regarding a situation that has happened in her family. And I'm going to confirm with her as to whether or not she still wants to do it, because it may still be a developing story. She may not be comfortable going into it yet, but that's who I currently have planned for the 4th. And then Kristen is coming back. She'll be back every month on the first Thursday of the month. And we're just going to chat. We're going to talk about anything mental health, because she is a mental health practitioner. So I'm so grateful to be able to have this type of resource, to be able to come and, be able to talk to us. Let's see. All right. I'm looking here, seeing what's going on. I'm sorry. I'm just going to take a peek around for a moment. Okay. And here we have Krystal. Krystal has been so kind as to join me today, because frankly, who am I if I'm not talking to somebody? I like to talk to people. And Krystal's one of my favorite people to talk to.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
Just
yeah.
Just give me a minute here. I've got new technology that's I'm just trying to figure out. So,
Okay. New technology is fun. I
wow.
like new technology sometimes.
Actually, I just got a tripod today, so I'm attempting to get it figured out.
Tripods are so nice because it's much more stable. She had a flexible arm, and it was easy to bump. So a tripod is really handy to have, I have to admit. I like mine a lot. So Krystal, I've been showing them.
As long as the cats don't bump the tripod.
And then it just goes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been showing the folks what I've been up to. Everything from making jewelry. That's one of them that I put together today. I actually probably did that one yesterday. I've got a few. Again? Yeah, I figured I should. Now, the reason I have pendants and such that spin is because I found out in my 40s that I have ADHD. And it is so difficult to find something pretty for a woman with ADHD to play with. So I have these ones that have little bling on it, and each side is a different color, so you're not bored. Or for those who like the idea of a pendant, I'm just going to advertise my wares. What can I say? For those who like the idea of a pendant, but who may not necessarily want the girly colors, we've also got some really beautiful, deep, rich colors there too. So that's what I've been doing lately. Oh, and I also, tooting my own horn again. Hey, Mama. I've been making thank you cards to give out when people buy my things. So many
Yay!
thanks. Yay. Mom, if you'd like to join us on the show, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to put a link in your inbox and we can all chat. But it's nice to see you. It's been a while since I've talked with my mama. So, okay. Oh, there's Patches. Bye bye,
Yep.
Patches.
it, what? Just go and look out the window. I guess she doesn't like what she sees out there.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, Krystal, what's new with you?
Oh, what's new with me?
Yeah.
Well, I sort of know a little bit more of what's going to be happening in the next few months.
Okay.
Um,
There might be some people
my
out there who don't know the situation. So,
yeah,
what's kind of the basics?
these last few months I have been working with my application for government housing
Mm-hmm.
so that I can sell my trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working at it with the hopes of being into a place by the end of May.
Mm.
That is not going to happen.
No, it's not.
No. It will now happen in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I know where I am going to. I know what building. Um, it's going to be under renovations soon, so I won't get to move until those renos are finished.
Right.
So
Okay.
I still got a few months left in my trailer, and we'll have to put it back on the market. Um, Unfortunately, I lost the sale because I couldn't be out of here by the end of May. But
But I am this type of belief. I have this belief that doors don't close for a reason, right?
yeah,
Unless there's a reason to close. So if you've got your heart set on something, but it
hmm
doesn't happen, it's not probably just God going, I don't like you. It's probably because he has something better for you than you ever
yeah,
imagined. So
yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I tend to be a glass kind of half full. And I learned it from that lady over there in the comments, Mary Lynn Lucas. She's my mama, and she is one of the strongest women I have ever known in my life. So she's cooking supper, so she won't be joining us on screen. Um, but yeah, I have to say that um, growing up in the home that I did, life was not easy. But because life was not easy, I can talk to you all. I can more um, empathetically and with actual understanding talk to a whole pile of people that I never could have otherwise, and I almost feel sorry for people for whom nothing bad has ever happened. It's like, okay, character. Where does character come from? Character comes from the scary parts of life and the stuff that surprises you and all of that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there was one time I was. A lot of times when people go through a trauma, they ask God why, and
Hmm.
I found myself in that same situation at one point,
Yeah.
and He answered me. He said, "Why not?"
Exactly.
Um, Okay.
Yep.
And I had to think about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because of the trauma
Mhm,
that all of us go through
mhm.
that we become the people that we are today.
Absolutely. And I'm kinda awesome, personally. I don't know about
Yeah,
you, but
you are.
frankly, I rock. So, just putting that out there.
You rocked when I first met you too.
She was about 9. I would have been about, 16 or so. So, yeah, it was, uh it was a very interesting time in both of our lives. A lot of things were going on at that point. So,
Well,
and
you were dating my favorite brother. Of course, I
that's
hung out with
true.
you.
Absolutely. Yep. Hung on me like a rag. Um,
I'm
no, she was
sorry.
one of the cutest. Oh, no, don't be. Don't be. You were one of the cutest little kids I ever knew. So, yep.
Oh, great. No
No,
one's
you were
ever
a
called me
sweetheart.
cute before.
You were cute. So there. Yes. So, anyway, no, she was a cutie. Um, so Crystal, what do you want to talk about today? Last time we
Oh,
talked, we were going to book a time, and we haven't done it. See my calendar here.
yep.
We were going to book a time to talk about Crystal Part 2
No, we
was
did part
last
two
time.
already.
Yep,
We
that's
did
what I'm saying.
part
That was
two
last time.
already. Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess this is
So
part three.
this would be Crystal Part 3. All right, Crystal Part 3. Do you remember where we kind of finished off with Part 2?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you up for continuing that, or do you want to talk about something
Yep.
totally different?
Oh no, I
You're up for
can talk about that.
continuation?
Yeah.
All right.
So when we last left, um, I was just
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
no, we weren't at the ranch anymore.
Ah, okay.
I was living in a small city and
Yeah.
had been there for about a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
working at one of the hotels in town. And it got to a point I couldn't do it anymore. So I started looking for
Oh,
another job.
right.
And in that time frame, I always had endometriosis, but I was
Mm.
wanting to try and find something that would fix it
Mm-hmm.
or that would help it to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that's so
so
painful.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
have it as painful as I've heard some people have it. It was mainly just while I was on my cycle. It wasn't through the whole month, but excruciating pain. I went for my very first surgery in January of 2000.
Okay. Yeah.
And literally the day after surgery, we
Mm-hmm.
got home late the one night, the late, we got home late the night of the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a call on my answering machine.
Okay.
And so I phoned them back in the morning and they said, we're doing interviews and stuff today. Can you come down for an interview?
Yeah, I just got out of the hospital. Let me go right down there.
And I'm going, mm, okay. I was barely awake, still had anesthetic in my system, um, could not wear regular pants, so was wearing overalls, which was all I could wear.
Oh my word.
And I hear that I did not take my ball cap off when I got into the store
And when you say that you hear, why is it that you had to hear that you didn't take your ball cap off?
because I couldn't remember that day very well.
Not a thing. Yeah.
It was actually a friend of mine that that told me later. She said, "Yeah, the day we interviewed you, I'm not sure why we ended up hiring you."
That's
And I'm
so
like,
confidence building, isn't it? This is my
but
supper.
I,
It's a Go Pure raspberry
hmm,
uh, oatmeal
bar.
bar. Woohoo! Sorry.
Mine was eggs and turkey bacon.
Okay, that's cool.
But I ended up getting that job, and that ended up being the start of my career with Walmart Canada.
Awesome. And
And
that's been a minute.
yeah,
So what, 24 years now?
20, 24 plus years.
Wow.
Yep. And I have moved around in the company,
Mm-hmm.
which you can do. Like you can move up if you want to. You can stay where you're at. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of flexibility in Walmart, and
That is so awesome.
yeah, and it's
Yeah,
been really good because I've been with the same company, but I have not been with the same job within that company
exactly. That's exactly right.
because
Yeah,
I get
having the
bored easily.
variety and the choice for variety. I would get so bored if I did nothing but stock shelves in a unit my whole
Yeah,
time, right?
I've been lucky to work with some incredible people over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and then some not so incredible people, but we all have those.
Exactly. Yeah, that is par for the course.
But I started work there at the end of January,
Mm-hmm.
and when I gave my notice at the
Mm-hmm.
hotel, they came back to me the next day and they said, "Would you stay if we offered you?" And I can't remember the amount that they offered me. And I said,
Oh
"Nope."
wow.
And they're like, "Oh, so it's not for the money." Just watching Leo, he's doing something over there. So it's not for the money. And I said, "Nope." And at that point, I didn't even know how much I was going to be making at Walmart.
Oh no. Right.
And
Like,
I,
yeah.
I also didn't realize that I had just been hired on as temporary
Oh
to get,
no.
which is an up to a 3 month contract.
Hmm.
24
So
and a
yeah.
half years later, I'm still there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I was hired temporary until they called me into the office to sign a form to become what is known as peak time, or most places call it part time.
Right.
But with Walmart, if you are willing to work as many hours as you can, at least back then, you could pick up shifts. So for the most part, I was getting full time hours
Right.
because I was willing to go in and work at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to um, become good friends with people that I work with. Sorry, I don't need the cat on the laptop.
Well, a little fur. No, really, a fur could hurt something. So yeah.
Well, no, it could end up putting things in the chat that shouldn't be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was through those friends that really ended up helping me. At that point, I had stopped working with the counselor that I had been.
Mm-hmm.
She just, we had our differences, and she couldn't take me any further than where she was.
Right.
So we had parted, and my depression, it was then that my mental illness really started
Mm-hmm.
in
Started
in
or simply
more,
got worse?
I guess, okay, in some ways I say started because that was when the chemical imbalances were found, where
Mm.
before it was just we just figured it was situational.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, After my surgery, they had tried to put me on different medication to try and help. The first
Right.
medication had been before surgery, and it did not work. It
Oh
made
no.
it made my it made me freak out. We'll put
For
it that
sure.
way.
Absolutely.
And so I had stopped taking that and went for the first surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the shaking. Patches is on the table.
It's an
Get off.
earthquake, but you're just making my world move.
Uh, between the two of them, it's getting to be their time of day when they go crazy.
Yeah.
So
We all have that time of day, don't we?
yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
Maybe
Hola,
I don't
Maritza.
know.
¿Cómo estás?
But I started like with working with the ladies that I was
Mm-hmm.
becoming good friends with one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we called each other partners in crime.
Yep.
Okay, the table is not your playing area, please. Go fight somewhere else.
Welcome to parenthood, right?
Oh, yes. What did you do, Leo? Whatever. I just
Okay.
can't see the chat at all. he's
Oh.
turned my he's turned my internet on my laptop off.
Oh, okay.
Kids.
That's okay. We can still see you. You're still gorgeous.
Yeah, I can still see you too. I'm just on my phone then.
Perfect.
But um I got to know Jay really well, and we really clicked. She
Mm-hmm.
was older than me, had kids that were already out of home.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't they were younger than I was, but not by much.
Okay.
And her and I just clicked. And I don't know what it was that made us click, but we clicked the
Mm-hmm.
first day, and from there we were pretty good friends until I moved. She ended up being one that was very instrumental about 6 months later when my best friend at the time and
Mm-hmm.
former counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I was still talking with her probably on about a monthly basis. And we were
Okay.
talking the one time I had actually phoned specifically because I was really struggling. And so, of course, she asked all the typical questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then she told me, she said, either you go to your doctor tomorrow or I will call and have you committed. And
So
I'm
what was
like,
going on that
yes,
made her
ma'am.
react that way? No, but what was going on that made her see that in you right then?
Um, I was extremely down and out. I was constantly
Mm-hmm.
crying,
Mm.
and for her to hear me crying was very unusual.
Yep.
At that point, that was the first time she had ever heard me cry
Wow.
or seen me cry in
Mm-hmm.
the let's see, probably about 4 years that we had known each other by then.
Wow.
And
Yep.
just some other things that were going on. I don't completely remember everything that
Mm-hmm.
I was telling her, but I was answering the questions that most doctors or psychiatrists or counselors will ask if they think
Right.
somebody is struggling with depression.
For sure.
And so I said, okay, I'll go. And back then I
Given
could
the two
actually,
choices.
like, I'm not going to the hospital. No way. I
Right.
hate hospitals. So I phoned and I got in to see my doctor the next day,
Mm-hmm.
which back then was easy. I would just phone, can I come in? And I'd get in right away pretty much.
Mhm.
And thankfully, the doctor I was seeing at that point was a Christian, which
Mhm.
really helped because for me to go to a doctor, and this was in 2000,
Mhm.
for me to go to a doctor and say I'm depressed was extremely difficult.
For sure.
I
So
had grown up,
vulnerable.
well, not even that. I had grown up that good Christians don't get depressed.
Right.
And if you have depression, pray and get over it.
That's right.
And so I was scared to go to a doctor and actually say what was going on,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So I went, and he was really good about it. He said, it's not your fault. There's
Mhm.
nothing that you've done that has made this come on. You're
Mhm.
you're still a good Christian. You're still a good person.
Mhm.
This is not has nothing to do with that. He said it is an imbalance in your chemistry, and
Exactly.
this will help. So I was put on my first antidepressant,
Mhm.
and because um, I was taking Depo-Provera injections
Yep.
for my endometriosis,
Mhm.
and those were every 3 months or so.
Yep.
And I asked him, I said, going to is the Depo going to affect the depression or vice versa? Nope, no problem there. It'll be fine. I think it was probably in about 4 months, 4 or 5 months, the antidepressant that I was on stopped working. And it was because of my friend Jay. She had been on the exact same medication and it had stopped working for her, and she had actually had to be hospitalized. So I kind of knew what to watch
Oh,
for. And she knew
okay.
what to watch for because I had
Right.
told her. And because the first day that I ended up going back to work after being diagnosed, like I had
Mhm.
taken about a week off,
Mhm.
um, I was a greeter at that point. So I had to be happy.
Hi.
And
Welcome to Walmart. Yeah.
actually, more it was like, welcome to
Oh,
Walmart.
back away from the crystal.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be
Crystal
around
will break.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, the first day back, the manager that I had given the doctor's forms to, she came and she talked to me and asked how I was doing. I'm like, I guess I'm here.
Yep.
And one of my supervisors came up a couple days later, and she said to me, she says, Krystal, I noticed that you were gone for a while there. How are you doing? You look kind of pale. Like, okay.
Thanks.
And just as she said it, I just broke and started crying. And that was so unlike me.
Yeah.
Nobody would see me cry in public
Yep.
before that. And she just kind of ushered me off to the side because I'm standing in front of the doors. And she asked what was going on, and I told her I'd been diagnosed with depression. And she just took me in her arms and just held me. And she says, "I know exactly where you're coming from." She says, "If you ever need anybody to talk to, I'm here."
Mhm.
And I heard that time and time again from my work family.
Yeah.
They pulled around side me. If I was having a bad day, they would say, Krystal, like if I was cashiering and they noticed I was having a bad day, Krystal, go take a break.
Mhm.
And even if it
Yep.
wasn't a scheduled time for a break. And they loved on me. And I needed that. The church I was going to at the time, I will not say which one,
Mhm.
different than the church that I grew up in.
Hmm.
I had gotten to know one of the ladies there that had been a nurse, and it was probably about 6 months later, and I'd had to work a lot of Sundays, but I
Hmm.
had actually started to ask for if I could have Sundays off so that I could go to church.
Right.
But I was finding I was just way too tired to even go to church.
Yep.
And this lady comes in and she says to me, she says, "You haven't been in church for a while. What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I've been working a few Sundays,
Yeah.
and I've just recently been diagnosed with chemical depression." And she looked me in the eye, she said, "Pray and get over it," and turned and walked away. And I was
Wow.
dumbfounded
Patently
because
unhelpful.
no, exactly. Yeah, it was unhelpful.
Yeah.
It was reminding me of everything that I had grown up
Yeah.
knowing.
Yeah.
And the good part about that whole time, and
Hmm.
yes, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family,
Hmm.
and my mother was very abusive, but when I finally was able to actually tell her what was going on,
Hmm.
they were in the process of moving to the same community I was in. And
Yay.
so when I had extra days off, Dad would take me up to the farm to help with some of the packing.
Hmm.
And once they were in the apartment in the community,
Hmm.
if I wasn't working, I would go over there because Mom didn't
Mm.
want me to be alone.
Hmm.
And that was one time when she actually was kind of caring and concerned. As soon as I started to feel a bit better, though, it was back to mind games and control.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
having,
Brian, sorry, Brian's just showed up. Hi, Brian. And he's saying, yeah, that's insensitive. Now, just
yeah,
to build on that a slight bit, there are people who are Christians, there are people who are not Christians, but in particular, please understand, I am a strong Christian. I believe fully in what I believe. I'm not going to bash people who don't believe what I believe, but there are a lot of Christians out there who do not understand the difference between chemical and situational depression. You had mentioned chemical depression before.
yeah.
So tell me what in your experience is chemical depression?
Chemical depression is where something in the balance of your hormones or your brain chemistry is affected, and you're
Hmm.
needing something that will help combat that effective.
And how do you
And
know it's different between chemical and situational?
situational will go away quicker. Um,
Okay.
Situational is usually you feel down for a few days after something has happened,
Hmm.
where with with chemical depression, it tends to be just a downward slide, like constantly going down and down and down to where you're not able to do anything.
Right.
Like it was my whole at that point, my whole body hurt,
Hmm.
and I had absolutely no energy.
Hmm.
Um, I honestly I don't know how I got through the days as being
Yeah.
a greeter and cashier.
Yeah.
Cashier was better because I was more one-on-one with customers,
Hmm.
but greeting you could have 4 or 5 people coming from different angles.
Yeah. And if you're not
So
careful, that can be really overwhelming.
yeah,
So
it
yeah.
can. And but just starting that journey, and I do have to say I am firm in my beliefs as a Christian,
Hmm.
and I like to think I am a strong Christ follower
Mhm.
and strong in
Same.
my faith. Um,
Same.
some people might not think that, but
Well, neither
they,
you nor I tend to step foot inside our church buildings
yeah.
at all. And my mom's gonna hate hearing that. For me, a large part of it is to do that with the fact that I constantly need sleep,
Yep.
and I will wake up at disgusting o'clock, and I'll fall asleep an hour and a half later and sleep for what I hope is an hour, but ends up being how long, Crystal, is it usually, like 2, 3 hours?
Um,
Sometimes 2
depends on
hours
if
or
you.
so.
Sometimes
Yeah.
if, it depends on if you set your alarm or if you turn your alarm off and go back to sleep.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Crystal stays at my place every now and then, and, I'm like, "Oh, I'll just lay down for an hour." It's like 2.5 hours later. "Oh, okay." So, yeah, I tend to sleep in fits of, like, 2 or so hours at a time, and, that's the biggest reason why I don't attend my church worship service inside the church. I'll watch it on YouTube, and I
Yep.
will worship from there, and as I'm out in the community, I am working that way, but that's just how I am able to do it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
For me, after it got to a point where a couple of years before COVID, my anxiety got really, really bad.
Mhm.
And there was only a couple of people that I could actually confidently be at church with
Right.
because I knew that they would stay right next to me
Yeah.
and not walk away, and I could have that extra support. And if
Yep.
I needed to, she would grab my hand if she knew I was
Yep.
having more trouble. Um, so that's why I don't go.
Yep.
After COVID, it got a little bit harder. Just I kind of gotten out of not going and just
Right.
watching online or whatever. And
Mhm.
I still have my faith,
Mhm.
and I would still eventually like to go back to church, whether it
Mhm.
be the one I was going to or another one, I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, the one I was going to does not have a pastor at this point in time.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it kind of makes it difficult to go.
Makes it for some people, that uncertainty, it makes it very difficult, yeah.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
so going back,
yes, sorry, I was gonna say we, kinda sort of did a little rabbit trail there.
yep.
So, yeah,
Oh, well, look at who we are.
I know. We've met.
Rabbit trails work.
Yeah, that's right.
But after the first antidepressant stopped working, they put me on another one, and I again asked the doctor if these two would correlate between the antidepressant and the Depo-Provera. And again, I was
Mhm.
told no, it wouldn't bother it that much. And so, about every 6 to 9 months, I would hold off on getting my next depot injection just to
Mhm.
see if it had helped.
Mhm.
And it hadn't. But every time
Mm.
I tried to stop and see, my depression got worse.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this was constant for almost 4 years.
Wow.
I ended up
Why did
being
you put up with
on
that for so long?
because I didn't understand. And every time
Mm.
we upped the antidepressant, I asked again, is there
Yeah,
any correlation? No, no big deal there. That's not got anything to do with what's going on.
right.
So, what I ended up finding out after 4 years and being on the absolute highest dose of one of the hardest antidepressants to get off of,
Mhm.
um, we had a new gynecologist come into our town that
Mm-hmm.
I was living in before we had to go to the bigger city.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go and find out because I was still having the the pains whenever I stopped the depot.
Mm-hmm.
The pains would just be incredibly intense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so I wanted to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
And I went to this new gyno and I told him what was going on and he took a look. He scheduled me for surgery number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him the very first time that I saw him, I said, "Is there a correlation between depression and Depo-Provera?" And he looked at me and he said, "If you're prone to depression, you should not be on Depo." I'm like, "What? You want to tell me that again?"
Yeah.
And so he repeated it, and I told him, I said, "I have been told numerous times over these last 4 years that if you're prone to that there's no correlation and that there's nothing, no issues there." So
But
after 4 years,
something inside of you though kept questioning
yeah,
because you kept asking.
yeah.
So good on you for sticking with it.
At that point, I started to wean myself off of
Mm,
my antidepressant.
oh boy.
I
Did your
did
doctor
not.
know?
My gynecologist knew.
That's
I know it wasn't the greatest, but for me, it all worked out.
okay.
I ended up not having the extreme side effects that some people do coming off
Right.
of it.
Right.
I had surgery number 2,
Mm-hmm.
and my gynecologist started talking to me about another form of, yes, it's a form of birth control, but it's also supposed to help with endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it was inserting an IUD.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally was in his office 2 to 3 times a week for probably 2 or 3 weeks with questions
Wow.
about
Okay.
this IUD before I ever allowed him to put it in.
Ah,
I
yeah.
was so scared that it would end up affecting the depression.
Once bitten, twice shy, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he assured me that it was a completely different um, hormone makeup
Yeah.
than the Depo was.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time I saw my medical doctor was when I needed to get a lower dose because I couldn't. They're a capsule, and I was taking
Hmm.
a big capsule and a little capsule, and I needed to get a new prescription to break the big capsule down,
Okay.
so that I could continue to step down.
Right.
And I told my doctor exactly what I'd been told,
Mm-hmm.
and his response was, "Well, it shouldn't have made your depression that bad." In other words, he was admitting the fact that it could have some correlation. I looked at
Yeah.
him and I said, "Don't ever let this happen to anybody else again." And I
Yeah.
walked out, and that was the last time I saw him as a doctor.
Absolutely.
For the next 4 or 5 years, the only doctor I actually had was my gynecologist.
Okay. I need to get a drink for my throat. You
Okay.
continue to talk. I'm gonna go out for a minute.
Yep. So once I had that second surgery and going down in my medication, it took me about 4 months to get from the highest dose of this medication to absolutely nothing. That medication had made me gain, I think it was
Where's
about
my
80
yellow straw?
pounds. I don't know, where's your yellow straw?
Straws in your cup.
She forgot to turn her mic off. um, so I got off the antidepressants and off the depot, had an IUD put in, and things started to get better. I lost about 40 to 50 pounds of the weight that I had gained. I never did end up losing it all. I still had the support of my work family, and by then I had ended up starting to go to the church that my parents were going to. To begin with, they had more or less been saying, well, we'll take you to your church, or you can come with us, either one. And it got to be the point where it was just easier to go with them to theirs, because both churches got out at different times. And so sometimes I was having to let myself into the apartment and they weren't home yet. And sometimes, most of the time, they were already been home for over half an hour to an hour by the time I got there from my church, because it went a little longer. So I
Sorry, I just
started going,
realized I wasn't muted, so you
yeah,
heard me getting water.
yep,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Oops.
We heard you asking about the yellow straw.
It's a yellow cup. It needs a yellow straw.
Just bugging.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Mary. Nice to see you.
But a year and a half later, after surgery number 1, or
Mm-hmm.
surgery number 2,
Mm-hmm.
in talking with my gyno, the endometriosis was still not going away. I was no longer having a cycle because the depot had pretty much covered everything. And then once the IUD was in, it just took the rest of it.
Didn't restart.
So, yeah, he went back in a year and a half after surgery number 2. I had surgery number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, this time with the same doctor. He said he didn't really want to go in a year and a half, but he would, because they like to wait at least 2 years between surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
And he went in and he was very surprised at how much growth was there.
Wow.
Getting off of the depot and having the IUD and everything else that happened, and going off of antidepressants, I
Mm-hmm.
had my life back. I was doing really good. So at that point, I actually learned that it wasn't a chemical imbalance, it was a hormone imbalance.
A hormone technically is a chemical.
Yes, but I didn't need it to correct things in my brain anymore.
Mm.
And so I was I was tickled on that one. Like,
For sure.
yay!
Huzzah. Yep.
So I kind of kept going with what I was doing, and then after surgery number 3, he started talking to me about them putting me into what would be called a medically induced menopause for 6
Yeah.
months. And with that, they give you injections, and it's the same injections that they give for people who are having fertility problems. So what they do with fertility problem people is they'll put them into a medically induced menopause to restart their system, and then hope that by restarting it, if they're doing fertilization or whatever, that the eggs will actually take and fertilize. So that's what they started with me. They did the 6 months injections. Again, I asked 1,000,001 questions before I even agreed to do this. And there had to be certain things that had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, and this was stuff that I put into place for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have key people at work, my manager as well,
Mm-hmm.
know what I was going through, and if he saw that things that I was changing in any way or reacting in different ways that weren't normal for me, as well as a few friends. Jay was one of those ones, as well as I think I had about 5 different people that were watching me at work. I
Mm-hmm.
had friends from church that
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to on a regular basis by then, and they were watching, and I had to still keep in close contact with my gynecologist as we went through these. Of course, I would be seeing him
Mm-hmm.
at least once a month for the injections, and these are not a cheap injection. They are probably a good 500 or 600 per injection.
Now in
Thank
Canada, normally we have this would be covered, but because this is an optional thing.
no. If it was for fertility, it would not be covered. But
Right.
because it was for endometriosis, it was covered.
Oh, awesome.
Otherwise, I
Okay.
wouldn't have been able to do it.
For sure, yeah.
And so I agreed to do the injections,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept asking the people that were my people that were keeping me on track.
Mm-hmm.
There was times I would say, would I normally be reacting this way, or is this something different?
Mm-hmm.
And they would come back with, no, Krystal, this is the way you would normally respond. And by that point, I was actually on the sales floor. I was no longer cashiering unless they absolutely needed a cashier. But
Okay.
I was running like a little chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah.
We were short staffed, and I was doing closing shifts at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes there was only 2 of us for the whole, what's more or less classified as home lines and hard lines.
Okay.
So everything from crafts to sports and auto and pets and seasonal and housewares and domestics and
Wow.
the whole gamut.
Wow.
There was usually 2, sometimes 3 of us in
Oh boy.
to cover the majority of the store, except for electronics and fashion.
Wow.
So yeah,
Is that normal? Is that normal?
um
Is that why we can never find employees around Walmart? Just asking. Asking for a
um
friend.
nowadays it almost seems that way,
It
but
really does.
it's because they're short staffed.
Yeah. They
You
need
can't
taller
get
staff. I'm sorry. You need either the staff need to wear heels or you need taller staff.
yeah. I'm on the short side.
She is on the short side. You might be what, 5'2"?
um Last time I was measured, I think I was 5'1.5". I'm
No,
shrinking.
you're shrinking. All right.
I used to be about 5'3", but I've
Mm.
shrunk. But I was asking, okay, is this the way I would be reacting normally? No, you'd be
No.
reacting this way normally. as I went for injection number 6, we realized that no, this was probably not how I should be reacting,
Oh.
and that the injections were making the problems worse.
Oh no.
But because I only had one injection left, I decided to take it, hoping that it would clear up the endometriosis for once and for all. And so I finished the last set and went back to regular, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of that point, the people in my church that I was good friends with, I worked in the toddler room. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, if I was having a bad day, I would beeline for the toddler room.
Gimme
Because,
kids, gimme kids.
yes, because I would feel so energized by the time church ended. And we were always needing extra hands because at that point, any given Sunday, there was usually up to 14 toddlers.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's a lot of toddlers. And you felt energized. Woman.
that was a normal Sunday. If all of the people that had toddlers, we could have up to
Right.
30 toddlers. And some of those had little siblings as well, so there would be toddlers and babies in the same room.
Oh my word.
But the conversations were incredible. Sometimes that was
Mm-hmm.
better than sitting in church.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
We would get into conversations, and parents that had just dropped their kids off would come, and we'd be like, oh, church is over already?
Yeah.
That didn't take very long.
Nope.
But there was also 4 or 5 couples
Right.
helping to look after. Plus, I was the only
Yes.
single one that was on rotation as an adult, and then we had 3 or 4 teen girls that were also helping at times.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
So, but
That's
I
really
loved
nice.
it in there. And
Yeah.
it was at that time that I started to feel God leading me that I was to move.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, God, I don't know where you're going to move me because there's only 2 places that I ever really wanted to live,
Mm-hmm.
and neither one of them had a Walmart. But I had been encouraged by my friends,
Mm-hmm.
who a lot of them were in the teaching profession in one form or another. They
Mm-hmm.
encouraged me that, Krystal, you should go for your EA or TA.
Mm-hmm.
So teacher assistance, education assistant.
Yeah.
And I could do that with just a correspondence course.
Right.
And so I did that. I did the correspondence course. I didn't do an actual practicum, but I did
Mm.
do work experience. I
Okay.
chose a daycare because my target group at that point was 0 to 5. I much prefer
Mm-hmm.
the pre-K than up.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing my work experience in a daycare. And at that point, I had worked it out with management that through the summer when I did my work experience, I would work at the daycare, then go to work and work my full shift.
Right.
So I was doing from 8 to 12 at the daycare and from 1 to 9:30, 10 o'clock at the store.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a marathon, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved the kids. I had my special ones that
Mm-hmm.
ended up being on the autism spectrum.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
Yep. I had worked with one. I sat with one who was getting close to his teen years at church
Ah.
when his parents would
Okay.
go. his parents were part of the worship teams. So
Okay.
if they were on stage, I would I was
They
supposed
couldn't
to
be with
watch
him.
them. I
Yeah.
was supposed to watch them. That worked, except for the one Sunday I turned the closed caption TV on, and
Mm.
the minute he saw mom and dad, he bolted,
Oh.
and I couldn't stop him. So, like, okay, well, whatever, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, that would not be the best choice of actions. Yeah.
But it was okay. The church was okay with it.
Okay.
But I loved doing that, and I got my certificate, and I started. Sometimes God will ask us to step into the water and take that step of faith,
Yep.
and then He will tell us where to go.
Yep.
And there was only ever two places that I ever wanted to live. One was here in
Hmm.
Saskatchewan, where I am
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
and one was Rocky Mountain House in
BC.
BC.
Okay.
Neither
What
one
was
of
the
them had
pull
a
to Rocky
Walmart.
Mountain House?
As
This
crazy
is the
as it
first time I've heard of you wanting to go there. So, okay, what happened?
for a couple of reasons. One is kind of funny. Their
Do
phone
share?
numbers, their phone
Yes.
numbers, the 3 digit. Of course, back then you only, if you were local, you only
Yeah.
had to do the 7 digits. The first
Right.
3 digits were the same as my hometown that I grew up in, and we actually
Okay.
found that out because there was times people were trying to get Rocky Mountain House, but they were in Saskatchewan, so when they dialed those
They
first three
didn't know that
numbers,
they had to do the area code.
the area code, and so we would get numbers.
Okay.
Plus
Alrighty.
my plus one of my family members was an RCMP officer there
Right. Oh,
at
she
one
was in
point.
Rocky Mountain House.
Yes.
Okay,
She
cool.
wasn't there at that point in time, but she had
But
been.
she had been. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the pull there.
Mm-hmm.
The pull to this community was I had fallen in love with this area when I went to school, to Bible college
Mm-hmm.
years earlier, and always wanted to come back if I could.
Okay.
And neither place had a Walmart. The
Mm-hmm.
closest Walmart to Rocky Mountain House was Red Deer.
Oh, wow.
So so I drove out there. Actually, no, the
Yep.
first time I went out, I took the bus. Took the bus out, and my manager had actually talked to the store managers in the two Walmarts that were out there,
Right.
and he had told me, okay, go to this one because it's going to be your one that you're going to want over the other one, just for
Okay.
location.
Okay.
And so I went and I talked to them. Well, they thought that I was transferring and ready to start. I'm like, no,
Oh,
no, 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 no. I'm just here to just kind of test the waters, see
scope
what
it
it would be
out.
like here, look
Yeah.
it over, possibly look for a place, that kind of thing. Find out how much I would be making
Mm-hmm.
and ins and outs. I loved the lady that I would have been working under.
Oh,
And it was kind of sad to have to actually tell her later that I'm sorry, I won't be coming out and working under you.
oh no.
And
Yeah.
like everything was opened up there so well, but I realized that to do that,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to work at a daycare as my
Mm-hmm.
primary and then just do Walmart like part time
Oh,
because I still wanted to stay with Walmart.
right.
And but I knew I couldn't live on what I was being offered for Walmart
For sure.
for
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Their health system is so much different than ours,
It is. Yeah.
and I wouldn't have been able to afford it.
No, that's right.
So I was out there the first time, and that was probably the end of April, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, and of course I had gone out there without my parents
Mhm.
knowing.
Oh boy.
They
How old were you at this time?
um that would have been about 18 years ago. So I'm going to
You'd
be
have been about
46. So about 32. No,
22.
20. No, no, it was 28. Sorry, 28
Okay.
approximately.
Right.
And yeah, and what I had done was I had left a letter
Uh-huh.
on their table saying that I felt God calling me to move, and they would just not see me at church one weekend, and that would be the weekend that I was checking things out.
Okay. So this
I
just
was,
just just for context there. Remember, she had an incredibly controlling mother. It's not that Krystal didn't want to cut the apron strings. Mom was a control freak. Krystal
yes,
really wanted to cut those apron strings. Yeah.
yes. I knew I needed to move because of her. I needed
Yes.
to get away from her being in the same community as me. Um, and God knew that too. I
Yep.
knew at that point I had come to the realization that I needed to move so that I could really start to work on my own healing.
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
just more or less scratched the surface, and Mom had been so happy when I stopped counseling in 2000.
Really? Okay.
Oh, good, you're healed, and
Oh, you're
whatever,
healed.
and
Yes, that's it.
yeah. No, I'm not, Mom. Still not. But
I can just picture your mom's face saying that. She'd have this great big grin. You're healed.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're all better now. I Thinking back now, I think she was more happy that I was no longer going to counseling because I wasn't telling somebody else about the problems of her family
Mm-hmm.
and what I was starting to remember about her.
Mm-hmm.
I can only
And
I can only guess that that's what it was, but
yeah.
yeah. But I went out that first time and knew that I needed to finish my TA program, so I finished that
Yeah.
up. When I came home, of course, I think it was either the next Sunday or the Sunday after was Mother's Day. So I begrudgingly went to their place after church for lunch. And I literally say it that way. And I'm sorry if the way I talk in this next little bit about Mom offends anybody, um, or Dad. Um, Dad went to get KFC after we got home, and Mom started in on me. Ripped me a new one up one side and down the next.
Why?
Because I hadn't let them know when I was going to be gone. I had friends. My best friend, one of my best friends at that point, had given
Mm-hmm.
me her cell phone so that I could actually be in contact with her.
Beauty.
One of
Yep.
the ladies at church knew that where I was going and everything. There was people that knew where I was going to be. I had
Mm-hmm.
not just gone on a whim,
No, that's right.
and
Yeah.
because I knew better.
Well, it was a planned event. I mean, it
For
was
me,
not
yeah,
something
it
that
was.
was, yeah, but you also had to let
They,
them know if I am gone, this is what's happened.
yeah, the funny thing is, the one lady from church was actually good friends with Mom, and she was totally in on the conspiracy. She had brought me a Red Deer phone book so that I could phone around to find hotels and other things beforehand. So,
Yeah.
and that had the map of Red Deer so I could figure out
Right.
locations and everything. And
Yeah.
but as I heard the car drive into the driveway, I thought, oh good, Dad's home. She's gonna stop soon.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in and he walked in and she kept going. That had never happened before. Usually the minute he walked in, she would shut up
Mm-hmm.
and everything was all peachy again.
Mm-hmm.
And then to add insult to injury, Dad stuck up for Mom.
Ooh.
I was done. I
Yeah.
don't know if he realized what he did at that point. I have never talked to him about it, but that was the end for me. That was
Mm-hmm.
my breaking point.
Yeah.
I had already been starting to distance myself for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Dad was working at Walmart as well. At that point, I had gotten him the job,
Mm-hmm.
and then I thought, "Oh crap! What did I just do?" Because when he was first hired, he was hired for overnights, so our paths never really crossed. But then
No.
he ended up coming to days and
Mm-hmm.
being a greeter, and then ended up in the tire and lube.
Okay.
And those times he was actually sometimes there when I was. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going, oh crap, because I was one person to him and Mom. I was a totally different person at work.
Yeah.
And now those two were coming together. And I'm going, crap, how do I manage this? And so I felt I kind of had to pull away because I didn't want him knowing who I really was at work.
Mm.
And that was hard because I didn't want to
Yeah.
change who I was at work because I felt comfortable in who I was.
Exactly. That's where you could actually feel comfortable in your skin,
Yeah.
right? Because you weren't under this shadow or umbrella or whatever you want to call it that you were under when you were around your parents.
Yeah.
It's a very different situation. I know, like, my mom, love her to all get out, but I'm a different person when I'm around my mom. I
Yeah.
know I am. I'm in my 50s and I'm still my mama's little girl. And I know it. My girls know it. My husband knows it. We don't generally complain about it, but it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is.
The thing that a lot of people don't realize, um, my mom was still playing the mind games
Mm,
and was still being very abusive in other ways.
mm-hmm.
With her, I know I've said in one of my earlier times of talking, she also essayed me, but most of hers was what's classified as overt.
Which
It
would mean what?
was, um, there wasn't the touching,
Mm-hmm.
there was the comments. She would constantly comment me on development, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um,
So more covert than
yeah,
in your
covert,
face.
overt, whichever.
Overt means
um,
the out front stuff.
okay.
Yeah, covert
Um,
secret.
washing, she would make me have to help her bath. Even if Dad was there, she would still get me to come in and help bath. And that was happening all the time. She would wander around with nothing on or next to nothing on. And this was still happening in my 20s. This was still happening until 2006.
Wow.
And I had to stop it.
Yeah,
I'd come to the end of myself.
absolutely.
The mental the belittling, she would say, "Oh, well, we're so proud of you, but you should have we're so proud of you, but
The
yeah,
word "but" sucks.
I'm still a failure."
Yeah. You're so successful, but
Yep.
yeah.
It became, and yeah, I actually, it's the one of those things that I pride myself in.
Mhm.
Um, I have held down the exact same job, in a sense, same job. I've worked for the exact same company for
Yep.
longer than either of my brothers have been able to work for a company. And to me, I'm proud of that.
Oh, honey, yeah, you've been at a place almost 25 years. That's amazing.
The only
People are
thing
happy
is,
when they've been someplace for 10.
there's one thing that a lot of people don't realize though.
What's that?
Yeah, I've been with Walmart for 24 and a half years. There have been times I wanted nothing more than to leave because of circumstances
Mm,
that were happening,
mhm.
but I was too scared to.
Yeah.
I was too scared to start over again. I was too scared to start with another company, not knowing what their thoughts on mental illness, and
Yeah.
because I honestly believe that if I was in any other company, I would have been fired a long time ago because of my mental illness.
They're not allowed to fire you for that, but they can treat you badly till you wanna quit,
Yeah. The
and
thing,
that's just
okay,
as bad or worse.
the thing is, okay, it's not my mental illness that they would fire me for. It would be the symptoms that my mental illness causes. And I have been very honest and open about my mental health all along.
Yep. Yep.
There's been a couple of times I thought I could get away with not telling a new store manager what was going on, just to turn around and 6 months down the road freak out and have to go and have that conversation again.
Mhm.
Um, one of
Yeah.
our managers that I've worked under, I literally had to tell her the day that she came because I had
Mm.
just come back to work and was on shorter shifts. I'd just been off for 3 weeks because of
Mhm.
mental illness and had to come back on shorter shifts.
Mhm.
Those
Yeah.
times aren't easy,
No, they
but
certainly aren't.
going back a bit, I had good friends. I hate to say it, but one of my good friends when I was in the smaller city, than it's a bigger city than I'm in now, but not a big city in Saskatchewan. When I was still there and in the same community as mom and dad, I ended up having to distance myself from one of my coworkers that I was fairly close with, um, simply because I knew he was becoming friends with mom and dad as well. And I didn't want him to end up saying something that he didn't realize was something he shouldn't have said to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the hardest part is he ended up getting cancer, and he moved before I did. And because of that whole struggle, I distanced myself partially because of mom and dad, but partially because of his illness, and I'm not proud of that. The physical manifestations of his type of cancer that he had made it very hard for me to be around him. And I wish I could have been more of a support to him as he was in that last year of his life. But back then I wasn't as healthy as I am now. And so I made a lot of difficult choices that hurt others in the process.
On that note, we're going to stop because I am choking and dying.
Yes.
And the next time we talk, it's going to be talking about the healthier person that you are now.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The journey the last 17 years. So, but yeah, that's part 3, I guess.
Awesome.
So,
okay.
we'll
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys, for joining.
Yes, I'll make myself some more tea. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody. And I will see you on the 16th on Thursday. And I believe we will have Sharon on. So stay tuned. We'll make sure that happens. Bye-bye.
Bye.